Yeah.
That word surrender is key. And that comes up in various chapters, and I mean that was a word that I never used really before I even thought about before I started going through this, and it seems like an entirely relevant word to Christianity that I just had not really thought of. I mean, and they're linked, right? I mean, they're in a way they're the same thing. I mean, if it's true faith, then there's that willingness. Like it's an action. It all comes together to okay. I think you're saying do this. I'm doing it. I'm not gonna think about it anymore. I'm not. I don't want to. It doesn't feel right. Somebody's gonna look at me. You gotta do it. Okay, I'm doing it. And only because I feel like you're telling me to do it. I'm just getting down on the floor, right? And just okay, I'm here and you're there. Let's go. And that word will come up, I think, and it should be used at different points as you go through this.
Actually, I think faith of the start is the most important concept to continually stress from here on out, because it's the missing ingredient for a non-Christian. I mean, they can think the same things you do, they can read the same words, they can answer all these questions, but if they don't have faith, that's the mystery. It's a huge mystery. And so as the weeks go on, wherever you have an opportunity to talk about faith, I would try to interject that.
It's kind of hard to talk about that if that person that's coming, that's seeking, is all about me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is hard.
Because they're so focused on them that.
But if they don't have the faith, then it's all for nothing. So that's the key ingredient.
When you say that all about me, what would you hear them doing, or how would you find that out?
How would you find it out? By what they do. Everything is just about them. They don't think about anyone else. Everything is for them. How well they do financially, how well they do.
Is that going to become part of the discussion in the group?
It could. Don't you think? No?
They would really have to force the issue to try to get it to there, I would think. I mean, if they're just answering questions about the material, to turn that.
I guess what I'm saying is a person that's got the mindset, not knowing anything about God and faith, I think they're all about them. They don't know yet that there's something greater than them.
No.
That's where the surrender and the willingness come in.
Over time, I have learned the hard way that God knows more than I do, and that I need to listen and have faith that something happens. This is what He wants, and it's going to work out for the best.
It's a lack of surrender to the most extreme level, right? I mean, so that person is just going to be taking in this material, hopefully, getting rocks thrown up against their window or whatever it is as you go through, and hopefully you're making some impact with it. Who knows, some chapters may help, some might not. Some part of somebody's dialogue, or somebody bring up some point that doesn't seem totally relevant, but that might strike a chord in some way, shape, or form. I think it's just going to be one more type of person. But you're right. I mean, in a nutshell, if you're going to be a Christ follower, you're getting outside yourself, right? So that is a key part of the process. So that person, really anybody who is not a Christ follower has got to go into something.
But I think listening to stories from others helps too. I know it's been helpful to me that they did have the faith, and God did.
There's a fine line, because we've clearly had examples of, you shoot off and you have three people that are pretty firm believers that then want to tell their story, which are oftentimes very touching, very heartwarming, very uplifting. Then you got three people in the room after. I got into a discussion one time where I was sitting afterward with 2 or 3 people, and they were just like, I'm not getting anything out of this listening to those people talk about the thing they have that I don't understand how they have it. So it's a fine line is all. You can't let it get out of control in that direction, but clearly you want, because they're acknowledging it exists. I want that peace, that joy, that fulfillment, whatever, but I don't see it, and just hearing them talk about how great it is for them is not helping me. So it's a fine line to we let it go too far one time. In particular, there was one class where each story individually, you're like, wow, this is great. Who would want to hear this? And then you get that. Wait a minute, those 2 people are just looking at each other going, get me out of here.
But I like it here too where it says, you don't have to understand everything to believe in something. And then it talks about the idea of you don't have to understand how a computer works, but you can check your email. So just that willingness, just that opening of the door, and just that there is something. Maybe you don't know what it is, you don't understand it, but there's something. At least that.
Well, I feel like who you're addressing are the people who feel like if they trust, if they have faith, they're going to fall over the edge. And when those people show up in starting point, they need to be chatted with a little differently. Yeah.
And remember, is it week 2, that Louis Giglio story, how you know, so you got the person like you're describing who's, they're really quite fine with their story. It's all about me, I'm doing just fine. And, okay, well, you know, you just have a starring role in a little bitty movie, you know, versus Louis' point about being in the big picture, God's picture.
Well, I know the surrender is big because that is where you say, I don't understand and I don't know, but that's the beginning of faith when you say, I don't know, but I'm choosing to believe. I'm choosing to believe that God is who he says he is and that he is going to do what he said he would, you know, is going to do. But, you know, I like to question things a lot, so I've questioned and doubted and probably round and round chased my own tail, you know, so many times. And so this next question I thought was really neat. It says, do you ever feel that all your doubts must be erased before you can trust God? Like, do you have to have an answer for everything before you can trust him?
Key question.
It's a key question every day, by the way.
That's why it's a key question.
You don't just answer that one once.
And I love this in the tension because we want the answers.
Yeah.
We want to see it. We want, but like we said earlier, if you see it all at once, how do you ever learn what faith truly is?
So anybody want to answer this question?
Okay, I see it in analysis like this. So, you know, you go in for, you know, a routine exam, and the doctor goes, you know what, we're gonna have to do a little more follow-up x-rays on that, so I'm not really sure. So now you're waiting, right? You go in for the follow-up x-ray, and he says, okay, well, we'll call you next week when you have the results. Okay, now you have 7 days, right? And what do you do in those 7 days? It's forming. You worry, you stress, okay? That's not trusting. If you did, the doctor took the x-ray and he gave you the results, there's no requirement for trust because you know the answer. Mm-hmm. It's in that waiting period when you don't know the answer that you have to trust your God.
Or even when you do say you do get the answer you don't want.
And then there's that.
And then you say, well, God, I trusted you. You know, this is not the answer I wanted. I do not understand what you're doing here.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's your exact scenario. I got a week, I don't know what it's going to be, and I think the definition is not I know the answer, it's going to be one of these two answers, and I'm going to handle it, and God's with me regardless, right? Like, and that's the ultimate test that we face on this earth, right? When you get the nasty situation, how you react. If you really have faith, no matter how bad it is, somehow you're going to react, see the positive, fight through it, be an example for other people, realize that our time on the earth is this, and eternity is this, and you know, like, you're going to find a way to do that, right? That's the ultimate example. And so really it's be able to walk around and say, I could lose both my legs tomorrow, it's cool, that's the way I try to think of it. I don't know. I don't know if I don't feel like I've ever been tested to the point that I don't really know how to react, like some people have, I'm sure some people in this room have, and like to me that's really where it really hits the road,
And I think if you have fully developed faith, does that mean that you don't have fear?
Good question.
Well, our pastor preached on this one a couple of years back, and there was something in the message that said fear and faith cannot coexist. And I'll tell you, that's been in my brain ever since.
Neither can fear nor love.
Fear and faith cannot coexist. What a blessing that is from God. What a nice little trigger that if I'm in a state of fear, then I'm totally not in a state of faith.
Yeah, something I share is probably not very helpful, but maybe it is that one good thing about getting old in the Lord is you get to that place where you just totally trust. Because when you're young and you're growing, it's like you have those doubts. But at some point you get old and it just becomes something you just totally trust now. And so I throw that out as, maybe a hope.
Yes.
That's the thing you have hope for, that someday you will have total trust in God, and that'll happen.
That's because you're closer to heaven, Bob.
Well,
I'm just tired of fighting.
that's just true too.
There's a shorter distance there, Bob.
But it's true. It's just.
Well, I think you learn over
One thing I've
time.
learned in this, just as you started this day too, is you gotta realize it's not our story, it's his story. And so we're here to have him use us to spread his story. And sometimes we don't like the way we're used, but it's not
Not about
for us,
us.
it's for him.
No.
And what better reminder than when Abraham dies before he's a nation?
That's right.
You know, and what better reminder to me on a daily basis to think about Abraham and go, God is using me however he does. And then we go back to Valerie's statement in the very first session where she prayed as a little girl, God, just use my life. You know, just use my life. And what a beautiful thing that was to hear in the first session of Starting Point. And then talk about Abraham, who's just the example of God using his life, you know. Wow.
Well, that's a good question. And that leads into the next question. In what areas of your life do you find it most difficult to trust God? And we touched on a little bit the fear. I think that anything that we fear is a signature of just the lack of faith. You know?
Doesn't that just relate to anything beyond right now? You know, anything future, anything that I haven't, you know, predetermined is going to happen a particular way. Yikes. Yikes.
You know,
I think women with children have trouble with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that.
absolutely.
I think it's always whatever I have the most responsibility for, so my children, my students, that's what I worry the most about, or I fear I'm not doing it correctly, or praying about it, and I know that I do have times of peace, you know, about it, but there are times of frustration, of stress, and concern, and, you know, questioning, am I doing it right? You know, should I do it this way or that way? There's 5 choices. Which is the right choice? Am I being too strict? Not strict enough? You know, it's very, very difficult when you have something.
Yeah, I agree with you, Elsa, and I think we have the most difficult time trusting God with the things that we think we're in charge of, or the things I want to control.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to control my finances, my health, my children's outcomes. It's really hard to trust.
And it's just such a balance question too, because you know, as being a parent, there are parenting things you have to parent. You can't just say, okay, God, I had it. Good luck.
Requires some
You know? I'm praying for you. What you want to eat, I don't know. But there's just a huge difference between, you know, where do you stop?
Yeah, I think too, it's almost a daily thing. For me, it is, because I find that I find myself back in the same things that I don't trust God. Oh, okay, that's right. I have to trust you in this, God. And when I see my mind going off, no, I'm going to trust God. You know, and I think that it's that he says, you know, faith paves a way for relationship. And if I'm drawn to do it my way, the constant relying on Him develops my faith, and it's the relationship, you know, day by day. Good point.
You know, I was traveling with somebody last week, and she got into the car and said, thank you, Jesus, for getting me this far. And we got to the restaurant, she said, thank you, Jesus, for getting me this far. We had our lunch, and she said, thank you, Jesus, for getting us this far. I'm like, really? You live like this? Really? Really? Are you just doing this for me because you know I'm not very trusting? You know? Is it my driving? What's going on here? I'll tell you, but it's really a perfect example of this, and that's how she actually lives, I'm pretty sure. You know, wild.
Constantly
Yeah,
failing.
as for me, I can see a series of events, well, not like that one, that I told Kevin about the first, because he knows he's met my daughter and her husband. But, and so I won't go into the details here, it takes too long, but over time, I would